What's going on YouTube? It's your boy Rich Nice back once again. So today we're back on the C-10 project as usual. Today we're gonna get low. So I've already taken the tires off all the way around. We have our jack stands in place. There's a few things that I need to take off. I'm not gonna bore you with that, such as taking our caliper off, taking our rotor off, and then we'll be able to get to our spring, our upper and lower ball joints, and our tie rod. And we're gonna have to take off to put airbags on our truck. That is right. We are putting airbags on this 72/76/ who knows what year it is. But in order to do that, there's a few things we got to do. Like I mentioned up front, there's our rear spring that we got to take out. There's these bump stops right here that we got to cut out, and then we got to take these rivets out. And then there's a few rivets on the bottom back here that need to come out. So I'll get most of this stuff started for you, and then we'll go from there. And I won't bore you about doing both sides. I'll do one side, show you how it's done, and then I'll go do the other side off camera, and it'll be quick and painless for you guys through the magic of TV, or YouTube, should I say. Anyway, while I go take this stuff apart, you go ahead and watch the intro, and we'll be back.
Dark side, light this bitch up.
Back, as you can see, we have our castle nut loosened, but it's not all the way off. We did the same thing for both of the ball joints. And the reason for that is you can use a pickle fork to go in between here and this housing right here, or you can just take you a BAH and give it a couple of taps and this should pop out. So let's try it. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing for up here, for the top ball joint that's right there, and the lower ball joint, which is right there. So now that we got this off, make sure you keep up with your hardware. So we're gonna put this right back on here. Eventually. All right, here we go. So another thing is, make sure you support your spring, because if you don't and you pop these loose, that spring is going to come flying out and it's probably going to hurt you. Also, make sure you support your caliber on a box or something. If you don't want to have to take your lines loose and re-bleed your brakes. So we'll give these a few whacks and get these out, and then we'll lower our spring out and I'll take that out. We got our ball joint loose. You can see a little bit of a gap right here, right in there. So we can take our nut off now, and then we can slowly lower our jack, and that spring should just hang out there. So I'm gonna figure out where our castle nut went. All right, we'll get it when it drops. All right, so I'm gonna come over here for safety leave you guys right there. One other thing, you can go ahead and take your shock off. We're going to be replacing our shocks, so I'll go ahead and get those loose and we'll be back. Shock out, it's over there. So now we should be able to let this down slowly, and that spring should fall out. Just like that. There you go. Now we can go ahead and take the bottom part of our spindle out, because we're replacing this with a drop spindle. So I will go ahead and get that loose, and then we'll be back. There we go. Now is the perfect time to inspect your ball joints to make sure that your boots are good, they're not cracked, and if they are, this is the perfect time to replace them. So ours look pretty good. So basically what'll happen when we get our parts in, you'll have to drill a hole in here, and I'll get to that when we get our parts. But you'll have to put a some holes in here, because there's a plate that bolts up here, and this is what your bag bolts to. And then we'll drill a hole right here on the side, and have our line come out, go through that hole right there, and out to the back. So joy, joy, joy. I'll go ahead and get started on the other side, and we'll be back. Spring out on both sides, pretty easy, straightforward. The rear is pretty much the same. There's these couple of brackets that hold the spring in. They kind of look like this right here. This goes on the top, and they have one just like this that goes on the bottom. It bolts through from down here, comes up through the spring and bolts in right here, and it looks like this. So we did those. We did the shocks on both sides. I have the jack underneath the rear. As you, not sure if I can see that or not. Hang on. Anyway, I got the jack underneath the rear. So now we can let the jack down and the rear end come down, and these springs should fall out. I have my jack stands back here, because when we put our C-notch in, once we take this bump stop out right here, we want to make sure we support the rear end so it doesn't sag and and bend in the middle. So I'll go ahead and let this jack down. So let's see what happens. There you go. Again, we got to cut this out. So these are the rivets I was talking about. These 3 rivets right here. Some more light. Those are the 3 rivets I was talking about. And then you have 2 rivets down here that need to come out. And then you got a couple of rivets back here, right there, that need to come out. And the same thing on the other side. So basically I'm just going to use a cutoff wheel. Cut this bracket down so I can get to these rivets, and then once I get to the rivets, I'll be able to grind those out, and then I'll show you what we're going to use to punch those out. So more to follow. Also, you see how this little lip sticks out right here? So we want to cut that off so it's flush with the frame, because our C-notch actually bolts up against the frame and it needs to go flush, and it can't do that with this particular lip right here. So I will get this cut out and we'll be back. All right, YouTube. So we got them ground down. There's 3 rivets, one here, and one up here. Now we'll use our air chisel and go ahead and knock these out. Our holes drilled out and rivets popped out. We got this piece right here trimmed down, so we'll hit that with some black rust inhibitor, just to keep that from having any kind of rust coming on later on while we put our C-notch in. So now we just need to knock this bracket off, and then we got a couple of rivets underneath, but I have to wait till I get to the C-notch, because I'm pretty sure it's these 2 rivets right here, but I just want to make sure before I cut a whole bunch of rivets off and I don't need to. So let's go see what's came in the mail today. Parts in from Grunion Fabrications. So I will get all this stuff boxed. We still got 2 more boxes coming, probably tomorrow or day after. I have to double check the tracking, but let's go ahead and get this unboxed and see what's here. All right, YouTube, I got everything laid out, so let's go over it. This is your pump. This is a 444 valve air pump. It's a really good pump. Wish it was black, but it came chrome, so no big deal. You'll never see it anyway. It comes along with the filters and everything else to hook it up. Chrome braided line that goes into the tank. Here's your miscellaneous hardware. It comes with a 40 amp relay. It comes with gauges. Here's one right here. I took it out the package. They are lighted, so they will light up when you turn the lights on. These are your paddle switches, make it go up and down, all 4 corners. This is the T that goes on the back of the panel that connects all the gauges together. This is your pressure switch that turns your tank off once it gets to about 150 to 180 psi. These are your front plates that go on top of your upper A-arm, which is this piece right here. They go on this piece right here, so we'll have to drill holes through this, like I mentioned earlier, and get that mounted to this, and that's what the bag will bolt to. Then you have your bag plates themselves that go on the front. Then you have your rear bags that go right here. You have your line. This is 1/4 inch. We're not going for super fast. This is just a cruiser. You have your 2,600 pound Dominator bags. And then you have your McGoy's shocks front and rear. You have your panhard bar. This just basically keeps your rear axle from going left to right. You have your tank itself, and it has 5 outlets on it. So this one will be your pressure sensor switch, and then you'll have your 4 down at the bottom, and 2 on the side, so each side, 1 at the bottom. And then we are still waiting on the drop spindles, and we're waiting on the C-notch to come. So once we get those, this thing will be ready to go in. But we can start prepping, like putting this stuff in. We can put the front end together for the most part, because it doesn't really require, it does require us putting in the drop spindle, but we can put the bags in, and then once we get the drop spindle, we should be good to go. And I believe this is already a drop spindle, but when in doubt, just replace it and go with the drop spindle from the kit. So and that's pretty much everything that's in these 2 boxes. We got 2 more boxes coming, and we'll get this thing put back together and go from there. All right, YouTube, we got our bracket in for our compressor. This will hang off the side of the frame. You sit your compressor upright on it, and it'll stay out of the elements and be protected. We also did some plumbing. These are our gauges that came with the kit. As you can see, there's a yellow needle and a white needle in both. You have your paddle controls right here. Up is to raise it up, down is to raise it down. On the back, I know this looks complicated, but it's really not. So basically, you'll come from your tank into here, into this piece right here, and it'll split off and go into the bottom. This is your supply for your bags, and then the top is your you know, how you inflate them and deflate them, that type of stuff. And these T's right here, each one of them will go to your bag, so you have individual corners. And you also have your connector for your gauges to tell you how much air is in them. We went and got a few fittings for our tank. We're still waiting on a couple more, but we'll get that installed. And for the tank, instead of trying to create some crazy thing, I went and bought these L brackets right here. These were like 18 bucks at Home Depot. And basically, I'm just gonna stick this on the back of the frame underneath, and then we'll bolt our tank to this right here. And then our tank will sit upright. That way we can still drain it if we need to, if it ever gets water in it and those type of things. So I will go ahead and do that and finish drilling some holes and go from there. Drilled here, here, and here. Got one screw in. Got other holes drilled. I'm going to pull this plate off because it's raw steel, and I'm going to paint it black just to give it some kind of protection against the elements. So more to follow. All right, YouTube, so I put the brackets on the bags. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. You have your two bolts up top. You have your airline fitting. The biggest thing is you want to make sure you have your plate on the right way, because if not, you'll have to take this all back loose, flip the plate over, and tighten it all back up. These are 14 millimeter screws. This is an 18 millimeter for your air fitting. And then on the bottom, you just have a plate, and this just sits inside of your pocket right here. It just sits in the bottom of this pocket right here. There's really nothing for it to connect to or anything like that. And then once you put your spindle and everything back on, this will come back up and lock into place, and that'll hold the bag in along with your tire on the ground and all that good stuff. So there's nothing to really screw this to. It all screws up here. We will have to drill a hole somewhere right there just so we can run our airline in, because you can see there's a big old pocket up here. It's pretty empty. So once we drill a hole on the side over here, we can run our airline through here and then run it up into the cab. So, and we also got to watch for our shock, which goes right here. So I'll probably just put it back here and run it up along with the brake lines right here, and then up into the cab. We're still waiting on our spindle to show up. It'll be here today, so we can go ahead and start prepping this to go ahead and put this thing back together. It's the same concept. You have your two bolts, you have your air fitting. This did not come with this hole. I actually had to make this hole in here just so I can get my airline in. Normally there's a cutout right here. That way you can just turn your nozzle and put your line straight through, but I just used a 3/8 inch drill bit and a step bit to get the hole a little bit bigger. That way I can just shove my line through and it should be good to go. Because once this is bolted into the back of the frame, you won't be able to reach your line. So we'll go ahead and put our line in before we put this in, just to make sure it's in there tight and we don't have to worry about it moving around. On the bottom, for whatever reason, it comes with a long bolt, because this goes through your trailing arm up through the bottom, goes through this plate. So your trailing arm would be right here. This plate would sit on your trailing arm and the bag would sit on this plate. You would think that with these holes right here on the bottom, these two outer holes, that you would be able to screw the plate to that, but it doesn't work that way. So it just goes just like this. And that's pretty much how you put these together. So I will go ahead and get these bolted up. And then once we actually get our spindle in, you'll be able to see what it looks like. All right, YouTube, we got it bolted in. It's supposed to have 6 bolts. I just didn't like how close this bolt was to this brake line, so I did not use this hole. I drilled it, but I didn't use it on the other side. I didn't drill it at all because I just knew how close it would be, and I didn't want to take any chances of, you know, just hitting my brake line or something like that. But it's lock washer, nut, all the way around. You have 5 bolts holding it in, which should be more than enough. I've seen some kits that have just 4. They just have these 2 on this side and then these 2 on the back, and the 2 middle ones aren't there. So and basically what will happen is the bottom end will come up. When you put your spindle in, it will come up just like that.